I'm Jamie, aka Scumboy.
I'm Andrew Walsh, aka Bat Phantom.
I'm Kevin, aka Neon Nazgul from the Operation Pug podcast.
A proud member of the Gonna Geek Network.
Just like the show you're listening to now.
The opinions expressed are those of each individual host.
Check out all the podcasts at GonnaGeekNetwork.com.
And get ready because geekiness begins in 3,
2,
1.
Stand by for a brand new episode of All Things Good and Nerdy.
I meant it when I said I'm keeping that short intro. It's quick. 18-second long intro now, guys, instead of like the minute-long one we had before. That might be too quick, but hey.
It keeps catching me by surprise. I said we didn't need 2 countdowns. I didn't say we needed a 9-second intro. Like, goddamn.
Well, I just want to get straight into the show instead of all that dead time to start things with.
It was a very long lead up before.
Oh, I know. That's one of the things I'm going to talk to the big boss man about is maybe we need some shorter pre-rolls because those are all 20 to 30 seconds each. Some of them even more depending on the length of the show. I wouldn't mind some shorter pre-rolls on occasion. I don't know.
Indeed.
What do I know? But hey, everyone, welcome to episode, 272 of the All Things Good and Nerdy podcast, recorded live on August 6th, 2017. If you're watching live, you probably see there's only 2 video squares filled. That's because I'm Chris, and I'm joined by my only other co-host today, one Anthony Bachman. How's it going, sir?
Good morning, peoples. It's going well. Because I'm here and I didn't leave Chris all by himself.
Well, I mean, that's probably a good thing. I mean, I've done solo shows before, just not recently.
Yeah, but no one wants to do a solo show where it's a show like this where this one, it's more about our interaction.
Yeah, that'd be tough to do solo. I mean, I've got enough soundboard things here I could make it sound like Naki and Willie are here at least.
Yeah. Yeah, you could almost do a radio clip show by yourself.
I've tried before. Oh, a Wild Willie has appeared. Maybe.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. I'm kind of out in the wild right now.
he's out in the world. One Willie D. Nelson reporting in live from the great wilds of North Carolina. I don't know. I got nothing.
Yeah, the internet's kind of spotty out here. I finally got signal.
We got half our people hiding up in the mountains. What the hell?
I mean, something's good. Something must be going right up here.
Well, I mean, I guess the hills and the mountains. Willie's not in the mountains. He's in the hills.
You don't know that.
I lived in Colorado. I've driven past the Appalachians. I know that. Those are hills. Those are not mountains. The Rockies are mountains.
Well, the Appalachians are mountains, too.
The Appalachians are dirt piles.
Yeah. Try hiking them. They're not dirt piles.
Yeah, try hiking the Rockies.
I've hiked them, too.
I'm shaking my head so hard at you right now.
But
that's all right. We can't see you, so it don't matter.
There's that awkward silence as we're waiting for the internet to catch up with him.
Maybe he's just got nothing else to say, we lost him.
I think we might have lost one Willie Nelson. Well, he'll chime in if his internet keeps going. Nope, there he goes. So that was Willie's appearance. I guess this counts on his episode ticker. Today I can count him as in attendance for episode 272.
Well, if it's that easy to count, why don't you just play a bump and count Naki, too?
Okay, give me a second. Let's see.
There's your tits.
There we go. The whole crew has been here today. Thank you very much.
I've got other ones, I'm sure, too, but... Oh, here we go.
Sticks.
There we go.
There's our
Naki has been officially here. We have played 2 bumps with her name in it, and at least titled with her name on my soundboard and her voice that comes through. So yeah, I consider that a wonderful success.
That works. That works indeed.
It really does. I don't know. Do you have anything you want to chat about before we get into the news? What's going on? Anything good?
Dark Tower was good.
Was it actually? I heard it was shit.
It's problematic. So if you know nothing about the story, if you're not a fan of it and you have no idea what's going on, I'm thinking it might be a little confusing. But if you are a huge fan of the story and you went in expecting Dark Tower the Gunslinger, the first book, you're probably pissed. Chris, have you read the books?
No, I have not.
Okay, so it's hard to explain without being a spoiler.
I don't care. Spoil away.
There's a point at the end of the Dark Tower books where Stephen King literally has a spoiler warning in the 8th novel that says, if you're happy right now, stop reading. And then he goes on and reads, and it's basically as Roland reaches the Dark Tower. And so his quest is complete. He has reached the Dark Tower. The Man in Black's been dead for like 2 books. And Stephen King literally has a splash page where you stop and it says, if you're happy right now, stop fucking reading. And then if you keep reading, Roland goes to the top of the tower to face the Crimson King. And as he walks through the doorway, he's in the desert and he's following the Man in Black. And the last sentence of the last book, I'm sorry, the 7th book, the last sentence of the last book is the first sentence of the first book. The Man in Black fled across the desert and the gunslinger followed. What's written on my arm. Roland Deschain has been stuck in a time loop. The difference being at the end of the last book, as he's heading across the desert, before the last sentence, it mentions a piece of gear on him. And if he has that piece of gear, this time he'll be able to beat the Crimson King and the tower will stand. But it's a thing where basically the story resets. And Roland doesn't know how many millennia he's been doing this, where he's been chasing the Man in Black. So it was this awesome twist on the story, but also kind of a kick in the balls after some of us had waited 20 years to read the 7th book to find out that, well, he didn't actually win. He has to do it again, but this time he will win. And so what the movie is kind of a sequel to the books.
Yeah, I'd heard it be called like a sequel reboot almost, and I was kind of confused how that works, but I think I'm starting to get the picture now.
Yeah, because in the movie you get aspects of stuff from, well, of course, the first book. You get versions of things from the 3rd book, the 4th book. I can't remember if they did anything from the 5th. There was no Wizard and Glass storyline, but you did see all of Merlin's grapefruits, which was cool. In the world, the wizard Merlin had a bunch of different pieces of glass that gave him superpowers. And at one scene, the Dark Man opens a cabinet and you can see all of them. And he pulls out one to use it, and you realize that he's collected all of the wizard glass, which is really fucking cool. And there's awesome little like, because on Keystone Earth, where it's like Earth Prime, Marvel 616, Keystone Earth is the main Earth where Stephen King lives as an author. And Roland is actually visited, and in the books he meets Stephen King. Like Stephen King actually wrote in his accident in the van in the Roland series. Well, I mean, it's weird, but also at the time, I mean, the motherfucker had almost just died by being hit by a crazy fucker with a van. And, you know, he had to recuperate his whole life, and he ended up writing himself in the story. It's not that bad. It doesn't feel, it feels a little M. Night Shyamalan ding dong, but not too much. And it leads to a character death that you don't really see coming that is super powerful. So it's really well written. But yeah, the movie ends up being, it's kind of a sequel to the books where you get a mix of a lot of the different things that happened throughout the series of the books, all done as one. And it really is just the showdown between Roland and the Man in Black. It's not so much the quest for the Dark Tower. It's just him on revenge, trying to hunt down fucking Matthew McConaughey. And man, I gotta tell you, fucking Idris Elba and Matthew McConaughey are both amazing in this movie. Matthew McConaughey loves playing a bad guy. He enjoyed himself. You could tell. Because there's lots of scenes where he just walks into a room, tells somebody to stop or stop breathing. And the way his magic works is that you basically do whatever he tells you. And one of the reasons he hates Roland is that he can't affect Roland. Roland just ignores him whenever he says shit. But the Man in Black can tell someone to stop breathing, and they literally stop breathing, seize up, and die. And he just like gets up into people's faces and he's whispering to them and fucking with them. And he looks like he had a blast making this movie. But Idris Elba probably not as much because he's always getting thrown around and fighting and blasting through shit. But I'm betting he had fun swinging them guns around because he seemed to be enjoying himself too. But Roland's a crotchety old fucker, so he's not supposed to smile. Which I think he only does like twice in the movie, which is pretty accurate.
So Lola, if we talk about us in the chat room, didn't most of Stephen King's book movies not do greatly in the theaters because they were more cult hits after the fact? I don't know, honestly. Yeah. Well,
and honestly, up until the Shawshank Redemption, damn it, can't think of his name. Who was the original showrunner for The Walking Dead? Frank Darabont.
Yeah, that's it.
Up until Frank Darabont got involved, pretty much every Stephen King film that had been made off of one of his books or stories up to that point had been a screenwriter or a director saying, hey, I want to make my version of this. And every time that happened, outside of The Shining, they were all pretty much epic failures. And then The Shining was so different that Stephen King disavowed it along with Lawnmower Man and Children of the Corn. He's like, these have nothing to do with the fucking story I wrote. These are not my stories. And so he didn't go so far as like Alan Moore to take his name off of them, but he has publicly claimed like those basically aren't his stories. Frank Darabont was the first person when they did Shawshank to say, you know what? We already have a fucking script. It's Rita Hayworth of the Shawshank Redemption, and this is what we're going to shoot. He shot that movie almost word for word from the novella in different seasons, and that's why it's fucking fantastic. And then that was the year, I remember, because Shawshank Redemption was up for the Oscars, and it lost to Tom Hanks because he did fucking Forrest Gump. And so what was the next movie that they did of Stephen King's? The Green Mile. And who did Frank Darabont get? Motherfucking Tom Hanks. So that Tom Hanks couldn't steal the Oscars from him. And The Green Mile was awesome. Fucking Michael Clark Duncan as John Coffey. That movie was great. But yeah, it's kind of like Mark Miller. The further away they get in the adaptation from the original story, the worse the films are. The closer they get, the better they are. And if you shoot a Stephen King book as if the book is the script, you will have a good fucking story. People just try to fuck with them and they're not good enough.
That's fair. I haven't watched or read much Stephen King as of late.
When I left the Navy on my last Westpac, I went and bought every book of his I hadn't read at that point. And by the time I came back in 2002, I had read everything Stephen King had in print. And I've seen every movie.
Damn. That's impressive.
I literally, I have 3 Dark Tower tattoos. Like those are my books. I'm a huge Stephen King fan. That was the one thing when I was growing up. My mom made me an avid reader. I was reading really young. And by 3rd grade, I had bugged her to the point of asking, who's this? Who's this book? Why can't I read this? She finally gave me, what was it? Skeleton Crew in 3rd grade. And she's like, if you can read this, I'll let you read the rest. It was a book of short stories. And I sat in 3rd grade with a dictionary at my desk and I read fucking Skeleton Crew. That's the book that starts with the mist, which that is a fucked up story for a 3rd grader to be reading. But by the end of 3rd grade, I had a college level vocabulary because I looked up every word I didn't understand. So yeah, I've been reading Stephen King since. Yeah, I read the original Dark Tower book, The Gunslinger, the next year. The Gunslinger was out when I was in 4th grade. I've been fucking trying to reach the tower with Roland for a long damn time.
Well, I can see why the movie would be such a big deal then for people like yourself who've been reading them since the very beginning.
Yeah, and I think, people were going in expecting The Gunslinger, and that's why they were disappointed, because a faithful adaptation of the first book, it would make an entertaining movie, but it would also have long, drawn-out, boring parts where literally he's just fucking trudging across the desert. Like, there's good chunks of that book where it's just Stephen King describing the environment. That's great in a novel. It don't work for shit in a film. No one wants a 10-minute sequence of a guy walking across desolate desert. Like, that's just not entertaining. And then, really, in the first book, he finds Jake. There's one shootout with some mutants, one shootout with a demon, and then Jake dies, and then he catches up to the Man in Black. They sit down and have a talk, and when Roland wakes up, there's a skeleton where the Man in Black was, and apparently like 100 some odd years have gone by.
So I went and checked right now. Deadline.com has said Dark Tower took the number 1 spot this weekend with $19.5 million.
Yeah, but not by much.
That's not a big opening either.
No, it's not. Yeah, I put 2 screens of it in my fantasy movie league, really hoping that it would do better than that, and it's not doing me very good. It was estimated. I think the estimate was sitting at 21 yesterday, and yeah, they have their estimate has clocked down to 19 as well. So.
And then last week they had the crappy Emoji Movie that made $24.5 million. So I think we're in the summer doldrums right now.
We seem to be. Yeah, and what's bad is that because it's not the books, so many fans have been like just talking trash about the Dark Tower movie. But yeah, honestly, if you went into it not expecting the first book, it was a good movie. It was really entertaining. It was just, it's not the story of the books. Jake Chambers is not a rich kid from New York with a nanny and two parents that don't care about him. Like he has a dead father who they used in the story and a mom who's, really caring and loving, which was kind of a weird twist because I'm like, wait, these fucking characters don't exist in the books like at all. Jake Chambers is a rich kid who basically runs away from home because his parents are pieces of shit. Like he has an awful existence. The only person that cares about him is his nanny. And yeah, it's a totally different character. They also made Jake psychic because in the World of the Dark Tower, bringing down the beams, bringing down the towers involves people with psychics, also known as people who have the shine. And in this movie, Jake Chambers has the shine stronger than any kid they've ever seen, which is completely not something that's in the books.
It's the
Jake has some shine in the books, but in this movie, they made him like a fucking telepathic powerhouse to where the Man in Black realizes that Jake could take down the tower all by himself if he gets him strapped into the machine, which is why he makes Jake his main conquest. So yeah, it's a very different version of the story, but yeah, it's them trying to do, hey, we would like to introduce people to this world, but we can't do 7-8 books in one film. So we can't get rolling from the start all the way to the tower in one fucking movie. What are we going to do? And so, yeah, they did kind of a rebooted sequel to the story, which I liked it. It was fun.
Supposedly there was a TV series or something coming soon too, from what I'd heard. I don't know a ton about it, but it's supposed to tie in to what was done with the movies.
Yeah, the idea being that if this movie did well enough, I think what they were going to do was they were going to reset the clock and go back and basically tell the story in TV form of the book version of the story of Roland's first quest to the tower. So then that movie would end probably with Roland, or that series would end with Roland reaching the tower. And then like a climactic finale scene would be once he climbs it and resets everything, you realize, okay, well, that's the start of the movie then, where he goes and fights the Dark Man again, forever.
Low Life Food Talker in the chat room says movie adaptations are almost always different. Hell, look at Lord of the Rings. Just about everyone was a massive asshole compared to the books. Well, I wish I could say I knew, but I got bored reading the book when they were walking through the woods, and it spent pages talking about the bark on the trees and the look of the woods, and I got bored and stopped reading it. So send your hate mail to js@gonnageek.com about the fact that Chris hasn't read any of it.
You can double it up because I actually own the complete Lord of the Rings and I've started it twice. And yeah, I love Stephen King. And Stephen King, literally in The Stand, there is I think it's a 6-page chapter that is nothing but the description of the side of a road. There's no characters in it. It's just like dirt and gravel and signs. And I read that and enjoyed it. And I haven't been able to get through the Lord of the Rings yet. So I'm with you there. Yeah, like Otaku said, it's the Kevin Smith thing. Even the fucking trees walked in those movies. Movies about walking.
Hey guys,
God damn.
There's only one return, and it ain't of the king. It's of the Jedi.
It's of the Jedi.
That's right.
Damn right.
That's right. So why don't we transition on in to the news of the week then?
Alrighty.
Live from the ATGN studios on the internet, it's the news of the week.
So you'd think with only two of us means less news? No. No. Anthony, I know, has 2 news stories. I have a long news story, so why don't we split them up? Anthony, you go first.
Okay, should I do my little one and then my long one?
Just do one of them. I don't care which one first. It doesn't matter to me. Just bear in mind that mine's going to probably be like a 10-minute conversation at least.
All right, I'll save my big one. I'll do the quick one real fast. And it's been notified. People have noticed that Dave Bautista has been talking about the Eternal Warrior script. And so it looks like Valiant has Dave Bautista pegged as the Eternal Warrior for the movie universe they got going. So right now we're looking at Valiant putting out a movie universe with Dave Bautista as the Eternal Warrior. They have the guy that was Deadshot on Arrow playing Ninjak, who's this badass ninja that Joe Quesada invented. And then fucking Tommy the Green Ranger is playing another one of the characters. Like, they've got some cult favorite actors putting together that movie universe. Like, when they said they were going to do a Valiant movie universe, I kind of thought it was a joke. But honestly, if they get these actors and put together some good scripts, like, they could be some entertaining films. Like, I'm kind of excited now.
are they planning on bringing them to the big screen, direct to DVD or Blu-ray or whatnot, or are they Netflix exclusives? Do we know anything like that?
Nothing like that yet. I believe that they're actually going to try to do big screen releases. I think at this point they're really trying to figure out what movie to do first, because Valiant does have an entire full consolidated universe like Marvel. When they launched all their comics, I think it was originally 6 different comics. Dr. Solar, Man of the Atom, Magnus Robot Fighter, like I said, Ninjak, the Eternal Warrior, Archer and Armstrong, which there's also other people saying that possibly in the Eternal Warrior script, the Eternal Warrior has always kind of looked like the Green Jason David Frank, more of a skinny guy. And so people are also speculating that Dave Bautista might be playing Armstrong, who is the Eternal Warrior's brother. And then there was a book called Archer and Armstrong. It was basically this giant bruiser of a drunk and this kid who was a bow and arrow using version of basically Iron Fist, who had been taken to a mystical city, taught martial arts, and released back into the world and doesn't know anything about society. And they were like a team-up duo that was a really, really entertaining book for lots of years. But yeah, it's something to where, I mean, with the right script and a couple of good directors, like they could easily build a solid comic book movie universe, and I think people would really like it. The question is if they try to do it Marvel way or DC way. Then we'll see if people actually like it or not.
It's always tough to do a new comic book type movie right now, because even stuff that you think should have been good, like The Spirit, should have been a good movie. Instead, it was absolute garbage. Absolute garbage.
I like Frank Miller, but he's not a director.
Yes. I mean, that's the risk you run. You've got to put the good team behind things to ensure that the movie that's being created in the movie universe that's being created is actually not crappy. That's the key.
Frank Miller has a million great ideas, but when you're smart, you make sure Robert Rodriguez is actually in charge of the film so that the film looks good and works well. There's a reason that The Spirit looks almost just like the Sin City films and didn't do like a quarter of the business. And the difference is Robert Rodriguez. Like, he made the Sin City films fucking spectacular.
Yeah, that's fair. I can't dispute any of that. So I guess I'll go next with my news story. And this is kind of a long one. And it ties into some previous conspiracy theories on the All Things Good and Nerdy podcast. So if you guys noticed, there's no Fantastic Four in the Marvel comic book universe anymore, the 616 universe. And in fact, I think we talked about it a few years ago. We're like, yeah, that Fantastic Four movie is so shitty that Marvel doesn't want to keep the Fantastic Four around to give them any free promotion. Well, we might not have been.
We talked about a couple episodes ago. They got rid of them in the comics post Secret Wars.
Right. Yeah, we might not have been too far off on that theory. So there's a real cool article over at newsarama.com. It's in the show notes, which you can find at bit.ly/ATGN272. I really encourage you guys to go and read it. It's by George Marston, who has done kind of a fairly in-depth article about the fate of Marvel's first family, the Fantastic Four. And what brought this all up is the upcoming Marvel Legacy event, which is kind of designed to touch on the key points in the history of the Marvel Comics universe and kind of bring you back to some of the main stuff that's existed. Yeah, there's no Fantastic Four in that, which had them start looking at things going, wait a second. Yeah, there's a lack of Fantastic Four on something designed to capitalize on Marvel's roots of decades-long history, but nothing there. And the real question is, why the Richards family absence seems to be happening in there. There's a lot of theories flying around. Let's go back to go back to a quote from Marvel executive editor Tom Brevoort back in 2016 at the conclusion of the Secret Wars. Bear in mind, the Secret Wars is that arc in which the Richards decided to vanish from the plane of existence, basically. Go explore the negative zone or some crap like that. He had said, Fantastic Four is a title and a concept that has a lot of built-in historical importance in the Marvel Universe. But to the readership of today, it doesn't resonate the same way that X-Men or Avengers or even Guardians of the Galaxy does right now.
And to that, I would say bullshit, because the readers of today love The Incredibles, and that's a Fantastic Four story.
Right. He continued to say it's sort of taken for granted. It's sort of seen as a holdover from another era, which isn't to say that the characters aren't great or the concepts aren't important, or that it isn't a linchpin of the Marvel Universe, but the facts of the world and the zeitgeist of today, Fantastic Four hasn't been in the forefront. I would go on and also tend to agree with Bachman. It's kind of bullshit. They were on all the Spider-Man cartoons in the 90s. People were reading them. They were publishing multiple Fantastic Four books leading up to the Secret Wars. There's Future Foundation, Fantastic Four. There was some other tie-in I can't remember. They had one of the best villains of all time in Doctor Doom.
They launched 2 or 3 cartoons during the 90s.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, the key thing is it's a movie, or a show rather, a comic about superhero family. How does that not resonate with people? I don't understand that.
The first super team. The first ever team book.
Right. So we're not the only ones thinking that thought. Jonathan Hickman, Newsarama reached out to him. You might know as the writer of Fantastic Four, the companion FF series, the Secret Wars books. He took a different position. He asked if he agreed there was a disconnect between the audiences and the Fantastic Four, and he said, of course not. Not only because of my personal experience is that it's not true, but the idea behind that conceit is that the core concept is somehow broken, which is nonsense. Family...
Yeah, I think...
Go ahead.
I was going to say, I think the last FF I read was Hickman's. So yeah, it all depends on the writer.
Exactly. He continued to say, family, future, and exploration are timeless, universal concepts. Sure, they can be nostalgic, but they don't have to be. That's really the brilliance of a lot of the early Marvel characters. They are created by guys wrapping both arms around timeless themes. There are exceptions to this, of course, but for the most part, almost everything Marvel owns is highly malleable and easily exploitable. I would argue execution is the mission-critical element necessary for a Marvel book to succeed. Fantastic Four is no different. I don't have the way with words that Jonathan Hickman has. What he said in that quote is exactly what I tried to get at earlier in this. Be like, Fantastic Four is lost. It's the core concepts of it. It still makes sense. He nailed it. It's obvious why he writes comic books and I don't.
He's a hell of a good writer. If anybody's ever wanting to look for something new, he's got books. I know with Marvel and Image, I'm not sure if he's written DC, but if you pick something up and it has Hickman on it and you're thinking maybe I should read this, go ahead. I almost guarantee 98% of the time you will be happy. He is a super talented writer.
Yeah, he really is. He's been writing all sorts of stuff. I really enjoyed his take on the Fantastic Four and the sense of scale he gave to the universe there, because there were so many moving pieces, so many large elements going on, and the redemption of Doctor Doom, really cool, which has then been picked up more with Infamous Iron Man.
And didn't he do the one, wasn't the last story he worked on the one where they were trying to get everybody on Earth to a different planet? Like they were building an escape planet.
They built the
Earth.
Ark basically for Earth.
Yeah, he has insane ideas that are super fun. He doesn't have what anybody would consider a limited imagination. Oh, that's what it is. Yeah, he does East to West. It is in my top 5 favorite comics of all time for Image. And it is an alternate history of the United States of America. And it is one of the coolest sci-fi stories ever. The only reason more people aren't talking about it is because Saga exists. If Saga didn't exist, East of West would be the biggest book in the world.
It was pretty big when it first came out, then Saga just eclipsed it. But Hickman did continue in his interview with Newsarama. He said, I think it's pretty common knowledge at this point that Marvel isn't publishing Fantastic Four because of their disagreements with Fox. While it bums me out, I completely understand because, well, it isn't like they're acting out of cause. Fox needs to do a better job there, which touches on something that Lowlife Utaku had said, saying, hey, that movie had Leet Hacksaw Doom. At this point, it's a mercy killing. So I tend to agree with both Lowlife Utaku and Jonathan Hickman here, is that, Fox has screwed the pooch repeatedly when it comes to a Fantastic Four movie. It should not be that hard to do, but they have not been able to pull it off, going back as far as the Roger Corwin Fantastic Four movie.
I actually like the Jessica Alba ones because they felt like funny, cheesy 60s comic book movies. Like I like those. Fucking Chris Evans, as much as everybody loves him now as Captain America, when he's standing on a roof during the wedding and they tell him to go fight and he looks down at his tux and goes, but it's Dulce. Like that was fucking Johnny Storm. That was perfect, 100% in character Johnny Storm. He wouldn't want to flame on because he's going to ruin his suit. Like, he nailed that character in those movies. He was a perfect jackass. And that's what Johnny Storm is.
Yeah. So while Marvel's kind of insisting this has nothing to do with the movies, you've got Jonathan Hickman that pretty much seems to think that. Then you have a former Marvel and IDW editor by the name of Mike Barber, who is now a writer, spelled it out a bit more directly to Newsarama and said, not to be blunt, but 3 fucking terrible movies don't help anything. Although he did later clarify and say, I think the lack of current Fantastic Four series owes a lot more to the film situation than to a lack of interest. So while Marvel keeps trying to paint the pretty picture of, oh, no, it's just that people don't care as much about the Fantastic Four, we need to focus on other things, I think that our conspiracy theory has kind of been backed up by Newsrama's in-depth interviews here with Jonathan Hickman, with Mike Barber, and a bunch of other folks that basically come down to the fact of, yeah, the movies are terrible, and Marvel didn't want to get painted with that same brush, which is the concern we all had going into Fant Four Stick, as we've called it, in 2016, 2015, whenever the hell that crappy movie came out.
Well, it makes sense, too, that that's probably what Marvel's corporate message has to be, because also remember now, Marvel has Disney lawyers, and no one has more lawyers than Disney lawyers. And so, yeah, they can't go out there and say, yeah, fuck Fox. We're going to produce Fantastic Four comics until we get our rights back. They can't say that, because as a company that made a deal with another company to buy an IP right, you can't say, hey, we're trying to publicly fuck you until you give us back our toy. They can't say that as a corporation. So, yeah, they're doing what they can as a corporation to say, we're just not going to make them.
Yep. So since Secret War, there has been no Fantastic Four. Reed and Sue are off on their own exploring with the Future Foundation. You've got Ben Grimm, who's with the Guardians of the Galaxy, and you've got Johnny Storm, who's with the Inhumans right now. They've broken everything up, and Hickman kind of was opposed to what they'd done. To finish up this article, he said the Fantastic Four didn't really need to leave the Marvel Universe. He said, quote, "That kind of thinking runs contrary to everything I believe in as a professional storyteller. It comes from a place of manipulation where an attempt is made to make the reader desire something through denial. It's hacky, it's suboptimal, it's the central tenet of all shitty dating advice. If you want someone to care about a book, write a story they care about."
Yeah.
Shouldn't have broken up the Fantastic Four. I think that would be a great book to have going on. Yes, there's throwback elements to it. Yes, it could be corny sometimes, but I have read some great Fantastic Four stories. Even in recent years, Hickman's run, fantastic. The run in the early 2000s when they brought the heroes back from the Heroes Reborn galaxy, also really good. There are some great stories out there. There are great modern stories out there as part of the thing. So to be like, oh, people don't care about the Fantastic Four, it doesn't resonate. No, that's BS.
Yeah. Ultimate FF, when they relaunched the whole universe, the FF in that world were great. They redid them as basically teenagers. Reed was a kid. And that book was just as good and retold a lot of the same classic stories with a new modern twist where they were dealing with fourth dimensional beings and cybernetic gods and all sorts of crazy shit.
Yeah, and
they were fun.
And now Ultimate Reed Richards is a supervillain, which is really cool.
Yeah. The fact that he became what is he, the leader, or he's got some weird name like that, like the leader or the master or something. Title. He sounds like a Doctor Who villain now, but yeah, he's great because he actually has this awkward, expanded, elongated head because he stretched his brain to think more, which basically drove him insane. But he's so intelligent that he doesn't think he's crazy.
Most people don't think they're crazy even when they are.
Exactly. But yeah, they did it with the character and made it really fun. Yeah, missing the FF is just missed opportunities.
Yeah, that's about what I was going to sum things up with, is the Fantastic Four is a great group of characters, and I think it would be pretty cool to have in the Marvel Universe, and then not have them tied into this legacy event that's going on, where it's all about central key components of the Marvel Universe and how it shaped things and looking back at it. That's bullcrap that Marvel's first family is not in there, because that's exactly what they are, Marvel's first family.
Yeah.
But that wraps up my ranting and raving. I didn't even curse much or go into super dick mode, although I considered it. I really did.
I could, yeah. The FF what's been happening to the FF would be worthy of a super dick mode. It's true. Yeah, because I've read some great Fantastic Four stories, and yeah, it's all dependent on the writer. If someone has a great idea for them, they can tell great stories with that team.
I would love to see them back in the MCU. I would love to see Reed and Sue back involved in things, because some of my favorite things was the interaction of Spider-Man with the Fantastic Four. That's how you got the Fantastic Bagman or whatever it was. Awesome.
Yeah, the grocery sack on his head.
Well, that's going to wrap up my story. Anthony, what do you got for your big story?
Okay, here we go. Let's see if the chat room can play along. Chris already knows. What can you guys tell me is the first thing that you can find in common with the following shows? DuckTales, DuckTales the movie, Chip 'n Dale Rescue Rangers, The New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, Tiny Toon Adventures, Pedal to the Metal, Bonkers, Crow, Reboot, Batman in the Animated Series, The Land Before Time 3, Superman the Last Son of Krypton, The Land Before Time 4, Freakazoid, Batman Superman Movie World's Finest, Land Before Time 5. God damn, they made a lot of those. Batman and Mr. Freeze Sub-Zero, Pinky and the Brain, Animaniacs, Batman Beyond the Movie, The New Batman Adventures, Pinky, Elmira, and the Brain, Animaniacs Wacko's Wish, Animaniacs Splatball, Tiny Toon Adventures, the Sylvester and Tweety Mysteries, Superman, Hysteria, Batman Beyond, The Zeta Project, Superman Shadow of Apocalypse, Sitting Ducks, Static Shock, Justice League, Teen Titans, video game, The Plastic Man in Puddle Trouble, Teen Titans the TV series, Justice League Unlimited. The list just keeps going. This is the IMDb page for Andrea Romano. If you don't know, Andrea Romano is responsible for basically everything post He-Man sounding the way it sounds. She was the voice director on all of those shows. This is the woman that said, yeah, Mark Hamill can play the Joker and it'll work. This is the woman who, she put all these shows together, and it's all the way up to current. She cast the new Voltron on Netflix. So, I mean, this is a person that's been working solid for 30 years. There's an article I found on IGN. Andrea Romano, voiceover and casting director behind dozens of projects, including DC Universe original movies, Avatar: The Last Airbender, Animaniacs, and original DuckTales, will retire this week. So sadly, she is quitting. Romano's work spans more than 3 decades of voiceover and animation casting, directing, including having personally directed more than 10,000 voice sessions. Though Romano said in a statement she planned to continue working for another 2 to 3 years, she's decided to wrap up her current project over the last few weeks following her diagnosis of optic neuropathy in one eye, which has caused blindness in that eye. So the statement from Romano said, this is what Andrea Romano said: "I shall miss so many aspects of this industry, particularly the people I've worked alongside and all the fun that happens on both sides of the glass. From the bottom of my heart, I extend my sincere gratitude to every actor, producer, director, engineer, and colleague that has helped make this run so incredible." Starting with like DuckTales forward, 40 TV shows, 1,600 episodes of television, over 50 films, 20 video games, the 3rd season of Voltron, as well as the new current Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Like, this is a woman whose work is directly affecting shows right now, and sadly, she's retiring. If you've never heard about her before, I doubt it. If you're listening to the show, I'm betting you probably know who Andrea Romano is. If you don't know who she is, you know her work. That I will guarantee. There's nobody listening to this show that doesn't know one of those cartoons. And if you think you don't, go check her IMDb. There's something on there you either watched or played in the last 30 years. I will guarantee it. There's nobody she hasn't affected in the nerd universe. She is an uber talent. And apparently also, from every interview I've read, from every article she's been in, one of the nicest people in Hollywood. She gets people that work together well and enjoy their job and makes the job fun, which is one of the reasons that people would literally fight to get on her list. Because once you're on Andrea Romano's cast list, she knew what you could do and would bring you back for projects. And that's why you see so many names repeated throughout comic or cartoons for the last 30 years, is because, she would always take chances on new talent, but she also knew, hey, I just need someone to do this. And she'd have a list of people that she knew she could call, that if Andrea Romano called, they would come and do the work, because they knew working for her, it would be a good job, they would have fun, and they would put out a high quality product. I don't know if she did Talking Tunes with Raw Paulson, but I know for a fact she did at least one episode of The Nerdist, where it was an hour discussion with her and Chris Hardwick. Go listen to that episode. She is a fantastic woman, super talented. And it's sad because the industry's losing somebody that's utterly talented and, way before her time. She could do another 30 years, if it wasn't for health issues. And I'm sad to see her go. I hope she takes care of herself and gets better. But I mean, it's apparently a degenerative disease, so there's nothing she can do about the one eye that's already going blind. Excuse me. So more stress in a daily job probably isn't fun, but she will be missed. This is an uber talented woman that has affected. I know everybody I know growing up. There was nobody I knew growing up that didn't watch Batman the Animated Series, and almost all there's Paul Dini and is Paul Dini and Bruce Timm, are hugely responsible for how great that show was. But a large portion of the talent involved in that show is because Andrea Romano cast the actors that did the voices. She's the one that got us our Batman. Like, she's the one that brought us frickin' I Am the Night. It's just insane the amount of talent she's worked with over the years, and the production. She's basically been working like 7 days a week for 30 years. Like, I don't know if this woman ever had a vacation. Like, it's insane the amount of shows she put out.
I think she might have also done an episode of Fat Man on Batman with Kevin Smith. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I seem to remember something like that. I do know that when Mark Hamill did his 2-part interview on Fat Man on Batman, he did talk about her a good deal as well.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just thinking that Kevin Smith was trying to get her on Fat Man on Batman and it hadn't happened yet. I'm not sure.
She either did one, or it might have been excuse me, she might have been on just a regular Smodcast. Because I want to say I do remember Kevin having a conversation with her. Because I Googled it, nothing pulled up on Fat Man on Batman.
It could have been from when he was moderating one of the Paley Fest panels, too. Excuse me. I can't speak English today, which is a great trait for a podcaster.
Wait, no, Fat Man on Batman, September 2015, dialogue casted Andrea Romano. That might be on there.
Okay. So the real question is, who's going to fill her shoes when this is all said and done? Who's going to be the new Andrea Romano who basically says, no, you're going to be the voice of this guy, and that's going to be your job for 20 years, and you'll become iconic for it? I.e. Kevin Conroy, i.e. Mark Hamill, i.e. pretty much all the voice actors from Batman the Animated Series.
I don't know, but whoever it is has gigantic, huge animated clown shoes to fill.
Ain't that the truth? So, best of luck in retirement.
So possibly, it's not listed in the episode listing, but it came up when I Googled Smodcast and Andrea Romano's name. It had the Fat Man on Batman episode 181 from San Diego Comic-Con weekend 2017. So they might have talked about her in the newest episode. But it's not a full episode with just Andrea Romano.
Okay. So that's going to wrap up our news of the week this week, though. We did have a comment from a lot of photography I wanted to touch on. He goes, it's a little late, but did you guys hear that Todd McFarlane was able to trick Blumhouse Productions into letting him write and direct a new Spawn movie? I'm having flashbacks to the early 2000s now.
What does he mean, trick?
Because Spawn's shit now, and nobody cares about it. So it's pretty much a trick to make a movie again.
I don't know. The way I understood it, because I've heard, because Kevin Smith has been talking about it a lot lately, because him and Todd were there for Stan Lee's signing at the Chinese theater. And he said that Todd McFarlane actually had been over to his house a couple of weeks ago. And for the last 20 years, Todd McFarlane has wanted to do a Spawn movie, but he wants to write and direct a low budget version of it and make it more of a supernatural horror film and not a superhero movie. And he kept getting offers and he kept turning them down because they wouldn't let him direct it.
Yeah, but when's the last time somebody cared about Spawn?
There's still plenty of people that care about Spawn. That his toy company stuff still does well.
No, the toy company is a completely different thing than Spawn. Let's talk
even
about the
Spawn
comic.
toys. But it's still got a solid core audience. Like, there's people that love that book. There's less than there was back in the 90s, but they're still there.
I don't see a Spawn movie driving a bunch of people like, oh my God, I need to go to the movie theater to see this. It barely even did when there was a Spawn movie in the late 90s.
I was like, a Spawn movie done right will make as much money as the one in the 90s did, so... I like the idea because basically Kevin Smith told him, hey, go to Blumhouse. They've been dealing with a bunch of people making low-budget stuff, and they might be the right place to take that. And apparently it was 2 weeks later that Todd announced the movie and that he gets to direct it. So I think I don't know if I'd call it a trick. It was just literally he went to them and said, hey, this is what I want to do. Do you guys want to be involved in it? And, basically, give me some money to make a film. And apparently they liked his idea.
Yeah,
I like the idea of a low budget. I like the idea of a low budget supernatural thriller of a Spawn movie. Because also right now it's got a little bit of heat because of the Sam and Twitch thing that Kevin Smith is doing over with the BBC, which is also a Spawn property. So there's a little bit of heat on it. It's not, it's not going to be climbing down, putting up billboards and shit. Like, it's not going to have $100 million advertising campaign, but it's something, if done well, they could do good money.
I'll believe it when I see it. But granted, I was never much of a fan to begin with, but it feels like it's about 15 years too late. But maybe that's just me being a pessimist. I'm not sure.
Well, the original casting for Rolling in the Dark Tower was supposed to be Clint Eastwood, so that movie's about 30 years behind schedule. So it happens.
Yeah, but to be fair, though, Anthony, you're the only person I've talked to that's actually liked the Dark Tower movie so far.
Yeah, it is a small number. Yeah,
let me play devil's advocate here. I've
Yeah.
been listening to other people who are big Dark Tower fans like,
yeah, it's because they went in. I think most of them went in expecting to somehow get a movie that was going to go all the way through book 1 and book 7 in one film, and that's not fucking possible. Not with good storytelling.
So Lily Futago said he started reading the comic a few months ago. It was pretty cool, wicked artwork. The artwork's always been awesome on it. The question is, when did you see it? Okay, early arc. So again, the early run of Spawn is like super iconic. It was really cool. It was edgy. It was different. It's I don't even know what they do in Spawn now. I'll be honest.
When you had the original 6 that started Image, like Eric Larson's the only person there that started, writing, drawing, inking. I think even maybe coloring Savage Dragon when they launched in, 92 or whatever, and he's still doing it today. All the other Image founders started their books and then handed them off to people. Todd McFarlane's the only one who, when he stopped drawing Spawn, he went out and found a guy who could draw his style better than him. Greg Capullo, when he took over Spawn, drew the McFarlane style better than McFarlane did. Like he was a smart guy when he handed off that book.
Oh, yeah,
but yeah, it's one of those ones. I think they've reset the universe like twice in Spawn. I fell off of it in the early 2000s, but it is a crazy book.
He picked the right replacement in Greg Capullo. And then I remember Greg Capullo's artwork and what was the spin-off, not spin-off, but the other like crazy weird superhero thing they tried to do in the early 2000s. Haunt, was that it?
Oh yeah, they did Haunt. Well, that was kind of a super tag team book. That was McFarlane and Kirkman came up with the idea, and I think McFarlane wrote the scripts. Capullo did the layouts, and then Ryan Otley from Invincible did the finished pencils over Capullo's layouts. So it was awesome because you had these scenes that were designed by Capullo, but then the superhero aspect was kind of cranked up because Otley was doing the finished pencils. It was a gorgeous book. But yeah, it was something where it really didn't find its audience, so it fell off, I think, after 10 or 12 issues. It had a fairly short run. It was a really cool idea, though. It was a guy who had this weird ghostly superpower. But yeah, the way Otley drew him, he was like an insane supernatural Spider-Man. Like, it was really cool.
Boy, I stirred up the hornet's nest here talking about Spawn stuff in here. Draftsman said, you guys do realize that Neil Gaiman and Alan Moore wrote some of the original characters, such as Medieval Spawn, Angela, and I don't know how to say that one. Cogliostro. So, yeah, that's true. That's how you got Angela somehow in the Marvel Universe because of some rights dispute, which I still don't completely understand. But
Nobody does.
Whatever.
None of the companies involved understand it. None of the people who own the characters understand it. Yeah, that shit got crazy. Because, yeah, there was lots of writers involved in Spawn and lots of different characters went through that books. I mean, shit, at one point, I think Cerebus showed up in Spawn. From Dave Sims. That book did all sorts of crazy stuff. But it was also because McFarlane was like, hey, this is my book. This is my universe. I will do whatever the fuck I want with it. And so he didn't ever feel or see any limitations with Spawn. And so they did stuff with Spawn that you'll never see in a Marvel book. Like, he did crazy shit. Some of it was great, and some of it fell flat. But he tried. I mean, the motherfucker swings for the fences every time. I'll give him that. Whether you like Todd McFarlane or not, I mean, this is a guy who basically started one comic and turned it into $1 billion toy company. He outsold Hasbro. Nobody else has outsold Hasbro. Todd McFarlane did. Like, motherfucker's a genius, and he has crazy ideas, and some of them are really good. Some of them aren't, but some of them are.
So it was brought up in there that I think Stargate Pioneer says ATGN should start their own comic company. And I was like, no one would read that. Well, I'm wrong. Sailor Poland said he'd pay serious money for a Naki and Willie crossover. That's the modern day Odd Couple right there. We should get a reality series out of it.
I'll tell you this, though. I'm not drawing that. I'm bad with hair, so
you're
I'm not
the only
drawing
one that has any artistic ability on this show.
Maybe I can come up with a cartoony version of Naki and Willie.
Willie would be the hapless villain that Naki always defeated.
Oh, that could be a fun. Yeah, Naki's a Cylon. She's all half cybernetic. And there's this crazy hillbilly that comes out of the woods and has these asinine plans. And then she always defeats him. This could work. I'm getting some ideas here. This could work.
Well, guys, it's that time of the show where we like to remind you guys that the All Things Good and Nerdy podcast is a part of a network of shows that you can find over at GonnaGeekNetwork.com. We have 22 different shows, I believe, now, of a variety of topics. Some are specific to TV shows like Arrow and Flash. Others are about general nerd culture. Others are about video games. All sorts of stuff. But each week we try to highlight one specific episode of something new on the network, and this week I want to talk to you guys about the Super Geeky Playdate. They did mini episode number 4 with Kevin Eastman. Yes, that Kevin Eastman. He joins the Super Geeky Playdate to talk about his life, his upcoming comic Drawing Blood, and his experience creating the Ninja Turtles. So guys, really you should go check that out. I think it's pretty cool. Go over to GonnaGeekNetwork.com, check out mini episode number 4 where those guys chat with Kevin Eastman. That's going to be pretty cool. I haven't listened to it all yet. I've only just barely started it, but totally had to be shared. Oh no, I look in the chat room. There's all sorts of stuff now about a possible animated short of the Willie and Naki comic.
Nice. I'll say, yeah, no, that Kevin Eastman's Drawing Blood, it's on Kickstarter. It is going for a $75,000 goal. They already have $41,000 6 days into it, 25 days to go. So yeah, people are really looking forward to new stuff from Kevin Eastman. But yeah, you put the name Eastman and Laird's on it. Both of those guys are uber talented. May not be some of the best businessmen in the world, but shit happens.
Yeah, ain't that the truth? So, looking at the time, it is time for us to start wrapping things up. We made it 50 minutes with just 2 people as we get to the wrap up, which is pretty good. We wrap things up on the All Things Good and Nerdy podcast with a little bit called What I'm Into. It's our chance to share with you guys who are listening live just what kind of geeky and nerdy stuff we've been getting into, so that maybe, just maybe, you'll want to check it out yourself. And I'll go first. One of the big things I got into yesterday when I was feeling better was Splatoon 2 was doing their first Splatfest for the game, which was Team Mayonnaise versus Team Ketchup. Basically, you had to pick a team that you were on, and you basically fight the other team throughout that. Now, there were some complications. It seems like most people picked Team Ketchup, so matchmaking was super slow because it would spin for a minute, not be able to parry you against anyone on the Mayonnaise team, and then you would fight someone else on the Ketchup team. And yes, I realize how weird this sounds to talk about. So there was a lot of Team Ketchup on Ketchup violence. That being said, it was really fun. Team Mayonnaise actually ended up winning when it was all said and done. But the whole Splatfest thing was really cool. They redid the main square of the game so that it was all set up into this giant party of Team Mayonnaise versus Team Ketchup. When you were fighting Team Mayonnaise had white ink, and Team Ketchup had reddish-orange ink. So it looked like mayonnaise versus ketchup being sprayed all over the map. It was actually surprisingly pretty fun. I've kind of enjoyed Splatoon 2. I didn't know that I was going to enjoy it, but it has knocked Mario Kart off the list for the game I've been playing the most on there right now. I've also gotten caught up on some TV, but not all. I finished season 2 of Ballers on HBO because it has The Rock in it, so I had to watch it. And I wish I had not waited so long to get caught up because it was really good. And thankfully season 3 is playing right now. And the other thing I accidentally fell into yesterday, and I've only got 1.5 episodes left to watch on Netflix. Wet Hot American Summer 10 years later. Who would have thought that this campy, kind of overly ridiculous movie would spin off a prequel series and then a series that takes place 10 years later? It's surprisingly fun, but insanely weird. When you've got H. John Benjamin starring in the show as a talking can of vegetables, that's really all you need to know about how weird it is. But if you saw the first Wet Hot American Summer movie, you watched the prequel series, you want to watch this. I didn't even know it was coming out. It just showed up on the top of Netflix, and I'm like, wait, what? There's another series? And it's really weird. And I love how they kind of play with the fact that when they made the movie, everyone was really young. When they went and did the prequel, it was like 10, 15 years later, so everyone has aged a good deal. They didn't even try and hide the fact that they'd all aged. So you've got like some guys that were like skinny as could be in the original movie, and then they're kind of heavy set and bigger in the prequel series, and they're like, "Yeah, man, that's me. I'm still me." And you're like, "Wait, what?" It's incredibly funny. I mean, there's some funny people in it. I mean, Elizabeth Banks is in it, Bradley Cooper. Wow, I'm having a complete brain fart. But when you go, Paul Rudd, that's one of the ones I wanted to mention because he's in everything. There's a ton of funny stuff with that. Go check that one out. And what else have I been getting into? I think that's it. I can't really think of anything else, although I'm seeing all sorts of stuff about a potential comic plot going on in here. Let's see. Draftman says, I know, but the hard part will be to prove that Willie Nelson is not some sort of stereotype of a rural average American named after the country western singer. As they're working on trying to figure out this fictionalized biography or this movie of Naki versus Willie. And then Stargate Pioneer had said, Willie is indeed an alien, originating from some long-lost snowy mountaintop in the Canadian Rockies. No one knows his true origins. In fact, I think the entire Obama birth certificate drama was there to cover the fact that Willie actually doesn't have one. You heard it here first, folks. Not on InfoWars or anything like that.
Wow.
The birth certificate stuff was to hide Willie Nelson's true identity.
Oh, it's all Willie's fault.
It's all Willie's fault. We have him to blame for all sorts of stuff that's going on right now. And while I am getting cranky at Willie for what he's caused, I got to ask Bachman, what have you been getting into?
All right. Keeping busy with the pacifist, of course. We are, see my list here. Working on the set of the cards in the 90s this week. I got 97, 98, 99 that are due. And I added 100 to the bottom of the list just to get it done. But yeah, I'll be 100 cards in by the end of the weekend, which is awesome. We're getting super close. As of, August 2nd, I had 31 cards left to do. And since then, I've done 3 or 4. Yeah, so getting down to the end of the list of cards that I need to do. So I'm super happy because the folder, when I open up the TIFF folder now and I expand it out to the full window, it's this close to having enough TIFF images to fill the entire widescreen. Like it's almost a full screen of prepped artwork, which is just, I don't know why, but my OCD wants that screen full. I did find the Andrea Romano episode of the Nerdist podcast is from January 7th, 2015. It's episode 621, if you guys want to go listen to that. And then I knew Wet Hot American Summer was coming back because, like I'm assuming Chris Pratt would as Star-Lord, I stalk Alyssa Milano on all social medias. And so she had talked about being in the new show. And so I knew it was coming out. So yeah, I just re-added. I apparently wasn't in the mood for it. I loved the movie. The movie was great. But when the prequel came out, I started watching it and then just stopped. I guess I got busy or whatever, so I need to go back and finish it.
I mean, that's the big thing. It's so weird that it can be off-putting at times. You really have to power through some of the weird moments and just be like, wait, what? There's moments that you don't care for, and you're like, just let me get back to the people I do care about in the prequel.
Okay, so it wasn't just me. So yeah, so I need to go finish the prequel, and then I'll watch the new one. But yeah, I added those to the top of my my Netflix queue, along with Voltron Season 3. When I saw that came out, I complained yesterday. I was like, what the fuck? I got Dark Tower and Voltron Season 3. How am I supposed to get any work done this weekend? Like, god damn it, people. And then I had an awesome mail call came in. This guy, Danny Diaz from Spain, I actually got my first package from España, did his Inktober book. And he put it in this awesome slipcase because he did like the coolest thing ever for an Inktober. He did one image. And so when you open his book, you got Inktober 2016, and then it folds out to the first page, and it continues on and continues on and continues on. But what it is one image. And the whole damn book just keeps going. And it's insane. It's one giant, like almost 8-foot long image. Super cool, really detailed. I mean, I've gone through the book, I think, twice now, and I don't think I've seen half the stuff that's in here. Like some of these pages were like, yeah, just image to image. He just made them, they all connect, and just some fantastically detailed, beautiful artwork, like just great stuff. And then I also received a sketchbook that I backed on Kickstarter by Gabriel Dunstan. I believe he's art by Gabe on Instagram. Try to see if it's in here. Oh, Instagram. His is Gabe Dunstan Draws on Instagram. But yeah, awesome sketchbook called Stuffing Things. And then it came with a pin. And then the pin is the same thing on the back of the book. It says made with coffee and hate. And just, yeah, great sketches, character designs. He's got a section where he talks about he likes to go and draw people at the at his local coffee shop. It's awesome. He says, yeah, he doesn't like to be the person staring at people, but he's a little wary of being that creep with the sketchpad who stares at me luridly. But on the upside, it's nice to have a place in the community. So apparently, he's known at his local coffee shop as the weird guy who's staring at people. But yeah, keeping up with my daily sketches. Done, I think 75 Pokemon now. Like this year, it's 200 and like today's like 212, 213 something. But yeah, been doing them every day, keeping up with that. So that's been good. It's been driving me nuts someday because it's like I sit down at my desk and it's like, okay, what the fuck am I going to draw today? And then the upside is that's why I have the Pokemon there. If I can't think of something else to draw, I draw the Pokemon. And then, yeah, I laid a couple more layers of Copics down on yours and Willie's Kickstarter rewards just because I'm coloring the shit out of those. And then did a couple more sketches for sketch covers. So, yeah, basically, if every day I'm trying to do like 3 to 5 pacifist cards, and then I do my daily sketch, and then I work on a sketch cover for one of the Kickstarter rewards that I'm going to send out. And I've just been doing those in batches where I get 5 or 6 of them done, and I mail those out, and then I work on the next 5 or 6 and mail those out. Trying to cut down on all the trips to the post office, but got to do a couple. And then, yeah, I caught up on a bunch of movies. I watched, was it Gifted? The one where Chris Evans has uber talented. It's basically what if a little girl was Will Hunting from Good Will Hunting. She's got like that math brain and she's 6 and is completely antisocial because she's uber intelligent. And the goddamn Chris Evans made me cry. It is a fantastic movie. And apparently that's the one where he met the lady that he's dating now. She plays the teacher in that movie. But yeah, it was really good. What was the other one I saw that I really liked? I went back and I finally just watched another stack of films that I'd been wanting to see. I started Moonlight, but I haven't finished that yet. That one seems really cool. I see why people were really enjoying that film. I watched another one that was just, A Cure for Wellness with Dane DeHaan. That was some weird ass creepy Cthulhu shit. But I can see why it didn't do well in the theater because it was so long and so slow and drawn out before anything really starts happening. But it was a creepy, creepy film. I think that's it.
Okay, I have the Power Rangers reboot movie sitting on my shelf to watch. I just haven't gotten to it yet. I forgot to mention.
I watched that.
I liked it as a kid, so what the hell? I figured I got the 4K disc for cheap, and I was like, okay, I'll check it out.
Yeah, it's Uber Armor Man Rangers trying to be Chronicle, and it falls short, but it's kind of entertaining. It's not made for me. I could see why the kids of this generation would enjoy it. Like it's no worse than the Power Rangers movie I saw in high school when I thought the Power Rangers were cool. So yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. Exactly. I just didn't dig the design of the new outfits. But other than that, yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. It's a Power Rangers movie. It's not going to go for the Oscars.
Yeah, exactly. So guys, I think that is going to wrap things up for this episode 272 of the podcast. Don't forget, there's all sorts of stuff that streams live over on geeks.live, which is the streaming homepage for the Gonna Geek Network. I believe at 1 p.m. Eastern, we have Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. 6 p.m. Eastern is the Starling Tribune. Then 9 p.m. Eastern is Pop Xcast. So Sunday is a busy day. Check all that stuff out at geeks.live. And while you're there, keep in mind there is a calendar down at the bottom of that page that shows you when everything is streaming live on the network. So you can always come to geeks.live for some good, free, geeky content. But that is going to wrap us up. Any final thoughts as we get out of here, Anthony?
Go look on Kickstarter. There's lots of good books to back.
Ain't that
if you need a list, let me know. I'll recommend some.
Yeah, says the man who's probably backed how many projects? Do we want to know?
I'm over 200 now.
Yeah, I was going to say probably about 210 is what I was guessing, but that was probably conservative.
Let's see, 3 live, 193 completed, and 25 unsuccessful. So you do the math.
Yeah, I don't like to do math. It hurts. But guys, that is going to wrap things up. Please check out some of the other shows that are streaming live today, and feel free to come back next Sunday, 11 a.m. Eastern, to watch the entire crew talk about nerdy stuff. Bye, guys. Thanks for listening to this brand new episode of the All Things Good and Nerdy podcast. Don't forget, we'll be back next Sunday live at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central over at live.atgnpodcast.com, channel 3 of the Alpha Geek radio app, and over at our network home at GonnaGeek.com/live. If you have any feedback for the show, please contact us atgnpodcast@gonnageek.com, on our hotline number at 304-806-ATGN, or even better, go to Twitter and send us a message at ATGN Podcast. The music you've heard in this show is produced by Kevin MacLeod and can be found at incompetech.com.